Okay, this question gives us this nonlinear system of equations. 3x squared plus 4y squared is 16, and 2x squared minus 3y squared is 5. And our first goal is to solve that system using elimination. So let's take a look. I can eliminate the x's or the y's. I think I'll eliminate the y's. So I'm going to write it down again vertically. 3x squared plus 4y squared is 16. 2x squared minus 3y squared is 5. To eliminate the y's, I have a 4 and a 3. Let's make them both 12. As long as one is positive and one is negative, they will subtract out. Multiply the first equation by 3 and the second equation by 4. What does that give me? 3 times 3x squared is 9x squared. Plus 3 times 4y squared is 12y squared. Equals 3 times 16. Do not forget to multiply on the right side. 3 times 16 is 48. Down here, 4 times 2x squared is 8x squared. 4 times negative 3y squared is negative 12y squared, which is good because then the y's will subtract out. Equals 4 times 5 is 20. Adding these together, 12y squared and negative 12y squared goes away. 9x squared and 8x squared is 17x squared. Is 48 and 20, which is 68. Divide both sides by 17 and I get x squared is 4, which tells me the square root of x squared is plus or minus the square root of 4. So x is 2 or x is negative 2. So those are my two possibilities here. Now, what do I want to do? I have x is 2 or x is negative 2. Well, let's assume for our discussion that x is 2. We're going to plug that into one of our equations. So let x equal 2. Now I'll plug it into the first equation. I'm going to use that to solve for y. Okay, that's going to give me 3 times. Remember we said x was 2. 3 times 2 squared plus 4y squared equals 16. 2 squared is 4. 3 times 4 plus 4y squared is 16. 12 plus 4y squared is 16. Subtract 12 from both sides. 4y squared is 4. So y squared is 1. So that means the square root of y squared is plus or minus the square root of 1. So y is 1 or y is negative 1. Remember, that happened with x was 2. So we started this by saying x is 2. And from that we have y is 1 or negative 1. So that's 2 points. We have x is 2, y is 1. We have x is 2, y is negative 1. But I also need the case where x is negative 2. So I've got to look at another example as my dog is snoring in the background. If x is negative 2, then what is my y value? So this time I'm going to say let x equal negative 2. We're going to use the same equation here. We're going to say 3x squared plus 4y squared is 16. And plug in the negative 2, and it'll look very familiar. It'll be 3 times negative 2 squared, which is positive 4. So everything else will be exactly the same. 3 times negative 2 squared plus 4y squared is 16. 3 times 4 plus 4y squared is 16. 12 plus 4y squared is 16. 4y squared is 4. Y squared is 1. Square root of y squared is plus or minus square root of 1. So y is plus or minus 1. So, and that happened when x was negative 2. So when x is negative 2, y is either 1 or negative 1. So my points are, again, I guess I don't have this quite down enough. We let x be negative 2. 3x squared plus 4y squared is 16, plugging -2 in for x. So now with x -2, my answers are what? If x is -2, y is 1. If x is -2, y is -1. So what are all four of my answers? -2, 1, -2, -1, 2, 1, 2, -1. So here's all four answers that I will circle here, right? So we have four solutions, 4 points of intersection, all combinations of 2, 1 with pluses and minuses. But there are 4 points. What's the next thing that it's asking us to do? Wants us to use Desmos to go ahead and do that. So let's see if we can use Desmos to find our point of intersection. So as always, I will load Desmos. Pull it up now. So I have 3x squared plus 4y squared is 16. 3x squared plus 4y squared is 16. And we'll go with our standard zoom here. And then our other one is 2x squared minus 3y squared is 5. And you'll notice I have 4 points of intersection. There's 2, 1, there's 2, -1, there's -2, 1, and there's -2, -1. So they all match the 4 that we had. All right. We also want to check it with the graphing calculator. So I will plug those numbers in and we'll quickly take a look to see how that behaves. And I may get a little bit more creative here. Let's see. I'll say 2 store in x colon 1 store in y colon, what is 3x squared plus 4y squared? It's supposed to be 16, is it? It is, that's good. We also need 2x squared minus 3y squared. 2x squared minus 3y squared is supposed to be 5, is it? Oh, I miscopied it. 2x squared minus 3y squared, not 4y squared. It's supposed to be 5. Is it? It is. So 2, 1 worked. How about 2, -1? I'm just going to quickly edit this, and you'll see the process. 2, -1, second insert, put a negative sign. Oops, don't want it there. Want it here. Second insert, a negative sign. 2, -1. Ah, -1. And you can see that also works. So I will leave the rest of those up to you. You can plug those in to check that all of them work as well.